Mulweni Quintessentials, welcome back to the Kazimla PR Academy. Today I want to give you a few red flags to look out for as far as bids are concerned. So which tender bids should you be going for, and which ones are most likely to be a complete and utter waste of your time? I've submitted numerous tender submissions, tender bids, so I can quickly see, okay, this is going to be a waste of my time, or this might work in my favor. So let's get right into it. The first thing that you need to check and understand about yourself is, can I do the actual work that is specified in the scope of this bid? So usually what I do, I usually look at the first page, I check the deadline, okay, there's still time, number one. Then I quickly scroll down and I look at the specifications. Is this in line with my service offering as a business? So can I actually respond to this bid? Do I have the resources to do the work? Do I have the intel? Do I have the intellect? Do I have the expertise to perform what has been outlined in the scope of work? That is the first thing. So read that scope of work in detail, assess it, assess yourself, assess your team, assess the resources that are available, and make a call and decide whether you can actually do this bid, it will be worth the effort, or this is something that's completely outside of your scope and it will most likely end up being a waste of time for you and the procurement agency or department that's going to be reviewing this bid on your behalf. Be honest about your compliance documents. That is very critical. That's the next step that you need to go into. After you've read the scope, do you have the compliance documents required to complete this bid on time and to meet the specifications? Because if you don't, as you know, have a single document, or if there's one document that's missing, you are automatically disqualified from the bid. So check your tax clearance, is it up to date? Check your CIPC registration form, your BE certificate, at least a BEE certificate. You can kind of like maneuver your way around it, because if you are one of the exempted on small businesses that you're making under, I think, 10 million, you can submit a sworn affidavit so that you can literally get a commissioner of oath from the police station. So check someone COID. COID is like a whole thing. I'm in the services business, so ideally, I know sometimes they do ask us for certain requirements, and then I have to also ask myself, okay, is this going to be worth my time? Do I have, and some of these requests or these qualifying documents that they want, they cost money. So do I have 2,000 Rand to be applying for a COID certificate that I'm never going to use, that needs to be renewed annually? At this point, I have to be honest with myself, and I'll have to step aside from this one and look for other bids that are more relevant and cost efficient for me. The other thing, when it comes to resources and cost efficiency, the whole printing situation, thank goodness for COVID, because at least now we don't have to be driving up and down all the way to Pretoria to deliver 5 copies of the same bid document. That was just, oh my goodness. Check to see, is this an electronic submission, or do they need you to physically go there? Do you have the petrol for that? Do you have the funds to go to a postnet, or your printer? Is there enough ink for you to be printing 10 million copies of the same thing, and you don't even know the chances of you succeeding or winning this tender? So review your resources, make sure that it's actually worth the effort. There's also what they call incumbent advantage. So here, the tender is, unfortunately, we are in South Africa, it's advertised, but there is somebody that's already allocated to that specific tender. They're just going through the motions of meeting the legal requirements of giving this bid to a specific service provider. There will be telltale signs, and there will be certain, if you've been in the game for a while, and you can see, okay, some of the things that they're asking for, like let's say if you're doing media buying and they're asking you to submit 10 pages or 10 pages full of quotes from various media outlets, how long is that going to take you to be phoning out various publications and getting those quotations in time to do this tender. It means that there's probably somebody that they have in mind that can actually do this job, or there is an incumbent service provider that has been doing this job and this bid is allocated for them. So use your discernment, use your intuition to decide, is this going to be worth the effort? Is it really going to be worth the effort? Is it going to be worth the resources? If you're already seeing the red flags that this has been allocated to somebody else. But don't let that discourage you. I did suffer from this as a deterrent. I was deterred from submitting tenders for the longest time because I just thought, okay, what's the point? And with everything that's been coming out, you know, it's another day, another commission. We can't live in that state of paralysis as well. You know, you have to go out there and look for business, because also if you're not submitting, then your business is at risk of not having enough clientele to survive. So use your intuition, but also don't let this incumbent advantage situation scenario deter you from actually going out there and bidding for new business. Another major red flag is if the bid is measured heavily on price. If it's measured heavily on price, you need to ask yourself, is it worth it? Because you don't want to underquote, but you also don't want to price yourself out. And usually if the bid is heavily reliant on the pricing, like hiring the cheapest supplier, you're going to suffer in the end. Because if you win, then it means you are at a disadvantage. The lowest bid means the profit margins are low. It means you're going to exert more energy to do more work that you're not going to be paid fairly for. And also, you don't want to set a precedent with the client where you are bidding at a specific rate, and then later on you are unable to come out of that pricing cycle because you have now locked yourself in due to fear, due to low self-esteem, due to worry that you're not going to win, and you find yourself locking yourself out of business because you've quoted yourself way beneath the market value, or you've quoted way above. You also don't want to price yourself out. Like, be realistic, have a happy medium. You've assessed yourself, you've assessed the criterion, you know what qualifications you have, you know what the market rates are. So find a balance. But when you are submitting bids, you just have to quote appropriately, because there's nothing worse than you doing work and you feel as though you are working for free. So make sure that you are satisfied with your cost. Ungamane ungawini in this instant, but find a happy medium. If they're open to negotiation, you can negotiate, but it has to be something that you can maintain, because most of the bids, they can run from like 12 months to 3 years. So if you've locked yourself in a bid and underquoted, that's 3 years of you living below and working below your means. It's not beneficial for you. It's not beneficial for your business. It's definitely, how are you going to even pay salaries at the end of the day? You need to be real. And the other thing that you must be mindful of is when you're seeing a tender being constantly re-advertised. No, there's a problem there. There's a problem there. It's re-advertised, it's cancelled. It's re-advertised, it's cancelled. It's a major red flag. There's clearly an issue. So pick up the phone, call the procurement official, find out, why is this bid? You know, I've seen it 3 months ago. It's re-advertised. And the error sometimes is with the procurement side. So if you can see that it's an RFP, it's a request for a proposal. I mean, if it's an RFQ, let's say, request for quotation, so that's bids in South Africa under 500,000 rands. But what they're asking for, as I had mentioned earlier about the pricing, it needs to be an RFP, so above, let's say, 1 million. When you're costing the services and the resources required to do the work, it does not fit in the scope of an RFQ. Then you can already see, maybe it was a cut and paste, there was an error from the SEM department. This is going to be a complete waste of my time. So what I usually do when I fill in tenders is, like I mentioned, I don't know if it's in the previous video, I look at, okay, the deadline, then I check the scope of work, Then you need to check the pricing schedule, because start working with the pricing schedule before you even do any kind of writing, to avoid wasting your time. Because the last thing you want is, you've written this tender, it takes forever to work on the technical work plan from writing the methodology, because that requires brain power. And I will be doing a video on how to use AI to actually help you write tender proposal, because in 2026 we don't have time for that. We just don't have time for that. We want to take the brain power and focus the deep work on strategy development, on scaling, on taking the business forward, legacy, succession. We don't have time to be spending 15 years, 15 hours writing tenders. So what you need to check in your pricing schedule, is it matching the requirements of an RFP, or is it matching the requirements of an RFQ? And if there is still time, again, pick up the phone, send an email, because they do have that caveat where you can ask clarification questions and find out from the SCM department or the official that stated in the bid, what's the story here? I don't understand what's going on. But usually most of these tenders, sometimes we find them like 3 days before, and you're like, let me quickly submit, I have all my compliance documents in order. I'm going to use AI to help me with the methodology. And before you know it, the combos are not communicating. So always check, always start with reading the actual bid specifications first before you start writing, then follow up with the pricing. Then you can write, because by the time you're writing, you're already clear on the requirements that are needed. So in summary, do you have the resources to meet the requirements that are outlined in the scope of work in the bid document? Do you have the resources to fulfill the desired outcomes in time to meet the deadline of this bid? Are you willing to compromise your pricing just so that you can say, I want a tender? Are you willing to compromise yourself and your rates just to be the lowest bid so that you can win? These are the hard questions that you must ask yourself. And then lastly, are you seeing red flags? Has this bid been re-advertised? After speaking to the procurement officials, are you satisfied that if I work on this, there's a high probability that I'm going to, win, or it's going to pass through? Or is this going to be another one of those tenders that's rolling, in the stratosphere of the internet until who knows what? So make sure that you are able to respond to the request for proposal. Make sure that you have the skill set, the expertise, and you're satisfied with your pricing schedule. Then it's all systems go. But look out for those red flags. But like I said before, don't let that be a deterrent for you, because then before you know it, you're not bidding for anything. And then before you know it, the coffers are dry in your business, and you know what? You don't want to be there. So thank you so much, Quintessentials, for watching. I hope this video has been useful to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.